we're really sorry about that. I don't know what happened. Honestly, we are on my iPad in Brian's house. We put on his wireless, and I hope that doesn't happen again. I hope you're all going to join us back. Where were we now? We were talking about the activism. We were talking about the grassroots. Yeah. We were talking about what we build now and how that will impact the future elections.
Right. So the idea of, here in Erie County, we've got a strong Democratic Party. There's a Green Party that's got a committed core. We've got a Working Families Party. So our strategy of building a political club that reaches out to these three parties makes the most sense here, right? Let's say you're in a more rural county that doesn't have a Green Party, and you have interest in building one of those, and you want to become a local chair for that party, recruit officers, so on and so forth. That's all well and good. Go ahead and do it. I'm not going to be the person to stop you. No one should. But I think it's important to build that and make sure you have a relationship with activists on the ground that are organizing for, $15 an hour minimum wage, Medicare for all, stopping bad trade agreements, so on and so forth. And to try to build a relationship to all these people on the left, because we can work together in coalition on issues and on certain candidates. And in the case of the Greens, it's a little more difficult because of in New York, their opposition to fusion voting. So,
can you explain that a little bit?
I'll say what happens in New York is fusion voting, and New York's one of the few states that has this, is you have a candidate who says, I'm X person, I want to run for office. And then there's a list of ballot lines, Democrat, Republican, Conservative, Working Families, Green, Independents, whatever it is, Women's Equality Party. So the candidate will, let's say they're a Democrat, for instance, will start reaching out to say, well, I'm going to work for the Working Families endorsement. Now I want to try to get the Women's Equality Party endorsement. Mm-hmm. Maybe we can get on the ballot as a Green Party candidate. Most parties are fine with fusion. The Working Families Party is set up to work within the fusion system, and they get some great things done because of that. The Greens, their philosophy is fusion's horrible, they don't like it, and they run their own candidates on their own ballot line, and that's absolutely fine. That's what they choose to do on the state level here, and I respect that. So if you're working on forming Green chapters in New York, do keep that in mind, that you can't form a Green chapter thinking we're just going to fuse with the Democrats that are progressive and work with them, because the bylaws of the Green Party and their practices don't allow for that. Whether that's good or bad is irrelevant. Just keep that in mind as you're choosing which party to go into if you want to join a political party following.
Right. Because of the Dem exit, this is really important for people to understand about what you were just explaining. Do you have an idea of how you think this is really going to take off here?
I think it's too soon to tell. Okay. Right now, the most important thing I think we can do is just keep our networks together. So the email list, the contact list, social media pages, the call list, anything from the Sanders campaign that you have that was built, maintain those good relationships with key organizers and people that were doing the hard work. Even if you disagree on candidates right now, it's more important to build those personal relationships, because soon enough there's going to be another race that opens up, and we're all going to be on the same side for that candidate. So building the personal relationships, keeping the call list and all this infrastructure is very important. Beyond that, as far as political parties people want to join, individual candidates they want to get behind, I think for the moment we have to agree to disagree and just accept that in the short run. After November, I think we have an opportunity to really regroup and look at the lay of the land, see who won seats to Congress and who didn't. Where can we target in 2018? Brand new Congress is something that anybody on this page should pay attention to, because that's going to give us an opportunity to get more progressive candidates elected in each one of the election districts all over the country. Kansas yesterday is a good example of this. Crazy right-wingers were thrown out of office, and more moderate Republicans, they're still out there, believe me, there's a few left. More moderate Republicans were put in their place. So In a place like Kansas, that makes a difference for us nationally as far as the Congress goes. But when we're talking about education funding in Topeka or Wichita or these other towns, now that there's more moderate Republicans that have replaced those radicals, the schools are going to be able to get more funding. The teachers are going to be able to get more supports from the state and local government. And yeah, they're still registered Republicans, but these are people that are going to be more attuned with the public. And what brand new Congress is trying to do is look at all 435 seats and say who's with us, who's not, who can we defeat, who's not worth taking on, and start finding candidates for each of these seats. We're looking for regular people. Typically, they are reluctant to run for office. You know, like let's say you find the best nurse of the whole hospital in the county. You know, she's going to say, I don't want to do this. I don't want to run for office. That's the person that should be running for office. You find too many people that they have big ideas, they're power hungry, or they have a lot of money and they say, well, I should run for office, I've got a good idea, and I want to try to get this good idea out there. Instead of drafting a candidate, so to speak, to say, all right, here, we've got an office ready for you, we've got a staff ready for you, we know how we're going to raise some money. The last thing we should be looking for is the candidate. Instead of building from the candidate out, what brand new Congress wants to do is build from the grassroots up to the candidate and then get the candidate in the office.
Oh, that's a great explanation. That is wonderful, because there are a lot of us out here that are working on catching up, and we need people like you, Brian. I got a question from Janina. And Janina, hi. Running into getting blocked out of local Democratic meetings and even training sessions. I've been told I can't even speak against Hillary or mention Jill's name at all.
Well,
Well, what do you say to that?
That's all about what. It depends on what state or localities that she's in, and I'd be very interested in that. Some state and local parties don't want anything to do with Democrats that are not supportive of the presidential nominee, which is unfortunate on their part. We're going to see this more and more where people will be, let's say, registered Democrats or active Democrats. They're not going to support the presidential nominee. They happen with the Republicans too. If the local parties are really interested in building and getting a more active organization, they need to engage anyone that's a Democrat. So let's say in your area, I would look for a political club or a faction of the Democratic Party that's more open to your views and what you want to do. Here in Erie County, there's two big factions of the Democrats, and typically if you're not accepted into the official meetings, there's another faction to where you can work with other Democrats there. In other counties, there might be multiple factions. There might be political clubs in your county of registered Democrats who are active in a certain neighborhood. Get involved with them if you can. So that way you're starting to work with people that have committee seats or town chairs or city, heads of the city Democratic Party. So you're still involved, staying in the contact list and that, but you can look for the Democrats and the people in your area who you could still work with even if you can't get into those meetings. And I hear that from a number of people that the Democratic Party doesn't want them, and that's on the Democratic Party. That's a stupid mistake on their part.
Oh, I agree. I have another question. This one comes from Janina again. Is there a way to train us so that we can be viable candidates? We are already forming a local chapter, and we need help so we can do it right. What do you think about that one, Brian?
Well, I would look into the Wellstone Institute. With Paul Wellstone, he's got a seminar, so to speak. He was a former congressman in Minnesota. Look into them. They do training on this. They do a 3-day course that talks about fundraising, effective mailers and advertisings, everything you need to do to run for office. Brand New Congress, I just mentioned. Look for them on Facebook or online. And it comes down to connecting with local candidates that you believe in too, because to a certain degree, running an effective race is all about knowing what's going on the ground in your area. If you don't have training necessarily, but you know that fighting an oil pipeline is a big thing in your area, just know the organizers around the pipeline, because if you come out against that pipeline, if they're organizing against it, you just got a base of supporters behind you. So there's no one definitive training. It really comes down to staying connected with people who have this experience and have this training, and building on that, and just making the best with what you can, and don't get discouraged or intimidated thinking that your opposition is very well organized and they know exactly what they're doing, because they don't. We nearly won for Sanders here in Erie County, even though the entire political establishment was against us.
Absolutely,
And
and
we
I
were-
have said that.
yeah.
They didn't
Yeah.
even put Bernie on the page.
Right.
The Erie County Democrats here in Buffalo
Mm-hmm.
never had Bernie on the page. I wrote them numerous emails. They never even acknowledged me. They acted like he wasn't even in the race. You know what? I do have one more. Go ahead.
Really quick, wanted to touch on that. One of the big mistakes we made with the Sanders campaign is we didn't reach out effectively enough to civic organization heads and elected leaders. So, besides training and getting more experience on how to run candidates for office, get on a first name basis with, let's say, your county executive or your mayor or people in your town council. Getting as many of the town meetings as you can. Whether or not your Democrats irrelevant is going to a town meeting, you can see the Democratic elects that are there and try to build a personal relationship with them. Maybe those people can get you into those meetings and get you more experience. Because the next time these races come up, we want to have connections with as many of the elected people as possible. Because as much as we talk about Democratic unity, there's certain unity to you unify people against the opposition, but there's divisions within Democratic parties all over the country. So talk with as many people within your Democratic Party as possible, whether or not they're the good Democrats or the bad Democrats. Speak with all of them. Get their contact information, and the next time a race comes around, we've got a better leg to stand on to run somebody for governor in New York, let's say. Or let's say you want to win you want to change the mayor of Baltimore, for example. Whatever it is, you've got it's really big on building the networks. I can't stress that enough.
Well, I do have somebody that has a concern, and this is Lori. And she said, as far as running for office, we don't have any money. So what do you do when somebody says, we essentially have no money, so how do we get off the ground floor?
Well, it depends on what office you're talking about.
Okay.
If you want to run for governor with no money, you're in real trouble.
I think she was alluding to local, but
yeah, let's say city council or even a state assembly race, or a town council seat or whatever it is. You don't need as much money as the opposition has if you have effective lists and you know how to reach out to the voters directly. The best thing you can do is look at best practices on how do you reach voters on a one-to-one basis. How do you reach these activist communities that will build the vote for you. So let's going back to this example of the oil pipeline. That if you're against this oil project and there's groups in your community these are people that are going to vote for you, they're going to tell their friends, they're going to help get the word out for you. So you need to know the issues in your local community, and you need to know where the networks are. And you can do effective fundraising on a lot of small dollar contributions. Sure, you're going to have to do some more fundraisers. You're going to have to tap your family and friends for $20, $30 here and there. But you don't need as much money as you would think. It's all about reaching the voter. So whatever you're doing is about reaching the voter. It's not making sure you have enough lawn signs or stickers or mailers. You don't necessarily need all that stuff. But you need to look at your race, what are the issues, and how do you spend whatever money you can raise strategically to get your message out there as much as possible. The big thing that campaigns run into is having to pay staff. If you can avoid paying anyone on staff and having an all-volunteer base, that really makes it easier to run a campaign. Especially in the local level. You don't need to pay for polls. You don't need to poll a campaign chair, things like that, because that's where a lot of that money gets into. But you do need to raise some money. So it helps to know who the legal people in your community is, let's say the lawyer community, doctors, other professionals, and don't be afraid to ask them for more than you think they can give. Think of it like this, that, if someone would approach me and ask for $100, I probably wouldn't donate, but I wouldn't be insulted that they asked me for that. If they said, hey, we only need $20, I was like, what, do you think I'm broke? So go out when you're going out to raise money. Be a little more aggressive than you're comfortable with. And if you ask for 100 and only get 50, it's $50 you didn't have before.
Wow, that's great. Our people are really giving us some good things. I have one person is asking. This is Cindy. Hi, Cindy. She says, I work in a polling firm, and all the surveys are push polls for Hitlering. How can we get Jill Stein to get into the big polls, to get the word out to the major populace? As I know, a lot of people wanted us to call for Bernie. Do you have an idea how to? I mean, this is a wide asking question, but
yeah, I don't have an answer on that one.
Where could she find an answer on that one?
Let's go over this one more time because that polls the word out for major populace. Okay, all I know is that in PPP polling, Giant Meteor has gotten 13% in polls, and Harambe's got 5%. Mm-hmm. The gorilla that was killed recently, 5% in a poll. In that poll, Jill Stein had 2%. So I mentioned that because one of the things we're going to have to do in the short run for those who are really pouring all in on the Stein presidential campaign is just to build name recognition even more. To fill up social media, and to donate some money. If you want the media to pay attention to her candidacy, $27 donations might be a great idea for you to give, and to fill her coffers.
Just like Bernie.
Right, one of the stories that were caught on with the Stein campaign the last month, was how after Bernie endorsed the Democratic nominee, donations to Jill Stein went up markedly, 1,000% or so. If we keep giving money to the Stein campaign, or if you're supporting Gary Johnson, giving money to his campaign, that's the kind of stuff that's going to not just embolden them to get out there even more. It'll make media pay attention, and once the media's paying attention, then they're going to be included in polling for 3- and 4-way races. Okay,
well that makes sense. I think that that we have interest out here, and we have Lori who said that in Youngstown, Ohio, they're fighting the fracking industry with their grassroots effort, but she says they get crushed every time, and I suppose her concern is going against big business, and we're talking grassroots here, but how do people effectuate change from the grassroots level in that type of issue? It's a pretty big question.
Right. Sometimes issues like that are real tough in certain areas. When you're reaching out to build a coalition, let's say something like anti-fracking, it might not make sense immediately to go to Republican committee meetings or to see in the conservative movement people that are opposed to fracking, because you get people that are conservative on most issues, but they're also conservationists. They want to protect the environment. So, in the part of that coalition to stop fracking could be people that are more conservative or Republican. I'd consider tapping into that if that hasn't been done yet.
Can you hear us? I just got a post from someone that said there's no sound.
No.
Testing. Can you hear us?
Check.
Somebody post, because we're not finished with this. Sound? Oh boy. I don't know why we're having issues.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
No sound.
No.
That's not good.
Okay. All right.
Better?
Thank you. Yeah, somebody said they had sound. So maybe it's a local issue. Look at your computer.
Yeah.
If you want to post any more questions, go ahead. I think we've covered a lot. I do think we've covered a lot. I think we're going to be partners in this area for sure, Brian.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on at the grassroots level where I am, and we were looking at our congressional districts earlier before we started this, and we're looking at melding and meeting. Maybe you could talk a little bit more about just what we might do around here for my benefit.
Yeah, before we went on, so in New York there are 3 very interesting congressional races right now. I've got one in New York's 21st district. There's the 19th with Zephyr Teachout, who's running as a Democrat for Congress. And then there's the 23rd with John Plum, who's running as a Democrat for Congress. In the situation on the 21st, we have a Green Party candidate. His name is Matt Funciello. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his last name correctly. Last time he ran in 21, he got about 11%. And we ended up getting a Republican elected in that district. Now, I'm not in the business of blaming somebody of being a spoiler. It's not the point, not why I'm bringing this up. The Democrat that's running in the Congress for Congress there now, his name's Mike Derrick, and he's been a registered Democrat for about a year. He's moved back home from Colorado to run. From what I can see, he's a decent guy. The DCCC has not elevated him in their funding program, what's called Red to Blue, to help give him matching funds and extra money to run for office. It's kind of obvious that the Democrats think they're going to lose that seat. So the question comes down to, if they think they're going to lose, why is the candidate still in the race? Whether or not Derrick's a good candidate is irrelevant. He seems like a great guy. But it seems like it would make the most sense to me to get a progressive agenda through Congress for the Democrats to pull that candidate and to turn it into a two-way race where it's a Republican running against the Green Party candidate, and the Democratic Party is encouraging folks to vote for the guy that's the registered Green. Once that's done, you can ask the Democrats in that community to support the Green candidate for office there, and right under the 21st is the 19th. So instead of dividing Democratic energy among these two congressional districts in this area, you can have all these folks helping Zephyr win her race, which is tough because John Fasso's been around for a bit, and he's going to be hard to beat. These are green, or these are red-leaning districts. If we can win, Zephyr can win her race. We can get a decent person in the 21st. If we don't divide the left vote in 21, when we pull the Democrat, that would be my suggestion. It's a very unlikely thing, but it's something for people that live in the 21st to consider bringing up to the Democrats in their area. If the Democratic Party nationally isn't giving this guy money, why is he running for office? Because Teachout's going to get money from the DCCC. John Plum in 23, close to me, he's getting money from the DCCC. They have faith that he can win his race. He's got a really good shot at this. It's a presidential year. The last Democrat came close to beating Tom Reed. Yeah.
Who is really Tom Reed is in my area, and a lot of people do not like him anymore because he really does. He supports the interest of big business, and I live in a farming community, and I haven't seen any evidence that I moved there that there have been any jobs brought into the community. So his name is John Plum if you're in Allegheny County or in that district in New York. But again, you have to look at all your districts. You have to look at what's in your state, what's in your county, and like Brian said, start small, right? Start small.
Really tapping into the existing networks and building a network of supporters that agree with you on your issues. What's great about the Sanders campaign is people built from the bottom up, that these local groups have email contact lists, and they may not be as robust or effective as you'd like, but there's still lists. They're people that you can contact, and depending on whatever you're doing, there's a network of people you can tap into. And if you need to get to do some fundraising, you can do an email through that email list to ask for some donations. You may not get too many, but you can ask your email list to forward that email to their friends and their contacts to get some donations for a local campaign, or to get volunteers for a local campaign. So keeping those things intact is very important, because it's something that can help us whenever those next campaigns come up.
Wow. Well, Brian, I'm telling you, I think we're going to try to get together so both of us are in the shot, but thank you. This has been really, really good. And real progressives out there, this is what we are going to be doing. We're going to be interviewing people in the area. At least I am in my area, and we're trying to branch out. And I thank the person that said that she only gets her news from the Young Turks and us. That's awesome. Brian, do you have anything you want to add?
No, I think we really touched on a lot of stuff here.
You did.
Any other questions? I got just a few minutes left.
Okay. Does anybody want to post anything that I can, because I'm looking at it on my phone? Anything?
Yes.
I know that Ellie said that some of the groups are totally unwilling to share the lists. That gets frustrating.
Yeah.
Is there? You have anything about that? You know.
So in a case like that, if you can get your information to whoever has hold on that list, and they're willing to send out an email to the effect, sometimes that's the best that you can do. In the case here in Buffalo, the list that we built made a point to where it wasn't one person that had total control over that list, but there's a number of us, so we kind of make group decisions on what gets sent out as an email through there. You can't have 90 people running a list, but if you get 3 or 4 that's saying this is what's best, this is what we should and shouldn't do. So if you get one person that's very tightly guarded about it and somebody that wants to send everything through, a core of people that are controlling that makes it easier to get more information out through there.
That's terrific. Somebody asked about your contact info. Now, I don't know. They want to ask if they can contact you. You really are an amazingly bright person. I don't know how much you're willing to take a bite out of and chew, but
I just say to look for me on Facebook.
Brian Nowak, Nowak. I wrote it down several times. Does anybody before we close? Well,
I'll take if you want to talk to them, I'll take a second to see if I could put a
Brian's going to take a second and
link to my page in the comments.
What do you guys think in the comments? Are you happy with how this has gone? Because definitely we'll be doing more of these, and I am looking at your comments, and I thank you too, David, for watching. But for now, Brian's going to look for his information, and he is. Not with Real Progressives, but he definitely is someone that I have as my go-to person because, again, I'm so low in the grassroots effort. As you know, any of you know that have followed me, I joined the Democratic Party in my community. I became a poll worker, but I am working on a concerted effort to bring together people of the groups that Brian was talking about, the Greens specifically. In 2 weeks, there are over 100 people that are interested in meeting together in my, like I say, little county, to talk about where we go next and support those local Bernie-crats, support those people that can get an agenda, and also discuss the Green Party and see if it's a viable option for us in our county. I definitely have gone great. Whether I'm going to communicate that to the Democratic Party in my county right away, I don't think so. We'll see what happens because I want to keep you all informed on the process, what my experiences are. And to do that, I really don't want to tip my hand.